afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I am Jerry Cooley.
I am Deborah Nelson.
And we welcome you. We always like to put a little plug in every now and then for Amalia, our great and wonderful hostess of MediaCom,
Yes.
MediaCom, the CG network, and how well she takes care of us. And hint, hint, if Amalia's boss is watching, she's a good person. And she always answers our questions and takes care of us. So I'm going to start out with a little heavy reading today, Deborah.
Is that your pocket constitution?
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Pocket Constitution, which I have pulled out many times in various meetings across Santa Rosa and Escambia County.
I have been in attendance in some of those.
Sometimes, folks, when you read the Constitution to folks, they look at you like you're somewhat retarded or crazy.
Or wear a tinfoil hat.
Or wear a tinfoil hat.
Or a flag shirt.
I take this very serious, folks. People have fought and died for the United States Constitution. It is something that is most dear to us. It is where all of our rights and privileges are protected in this amazing document that we have had since the founding of this country. And from time to time, we have pin-headed judges, pin-headed politicians, pin-headed federal judges who think they know more than other folks do, arrogant, snotty-nosed folks that want to control the process, and a host of other people who participate in the vast destruction of your rights and my rights. So I'm going to read the First Amendment to the Constitution, because apparently we have some judges, we have people involved in our court system, we have some elected officials, we have appointed officials who don't understand the importance of this document. So, Deborah, once again, I will read it. Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Seems simple enough.
Folks, other people have fought for this. Other people have died for this. And I am telling you today that when we get finished with this show, it's going to be your time to join the fight, because of the aforementioned pin-headed judges that we have that oversee us, specifically Kahn and Weatherall. But there are a host of other. The entire Supreme Court needs to be dumped.
Except Justice Lewis. I like him.
Well, yeah, Deborah, here's what I have to say about things like that. You know, everybody says, well, we ought to get rid of all the other elected officials, but the one that's in my area,
right,
he's
right,
okay. Right. No, folks. No. This kind of foolishness, messing around with our freedom of speech, the foolishness of messing around with our rights, our inalienable rights as citizens, while one group of judges are taking that right and privilege away from you, the rest of the judges are sitting in the same back room having a conversation with them. Okay? One thing that I have said this before, and I'll say it again for this TV show. There are sins of commission, and there are sins of omission. In the eyes of the Lord, those sins are exactly the same. There's no difference in those sins. So, the judge that says you don't have the right to speak at a public meeting, he's committed a sin as far as I'm concerned. And the rest of the judges that refuse to overrule that opinion, they've completed a different sin simply by sitting back and allowing that action to happen. Okay? Folks, this is serious, serious business. You know, we try to have a lot of fun on this show and goof around a little bit and tell a funny story every now and then and pick at folks a little bit. But this is serious business. I've never been any more serious about anything in my life. Your rights in this county, in this state, is in grave jeopardy of being taken away.
What we're talking about is the recent Florida Supreme Court refusal to review the case where the community maritime park was not letting people talk during public meetings, and so a couple of local people, Leroy Boyd, who's passed away, and Byron Kiesler sued, and they said no, you're wrong all the way up, and the Supreme Court now won't review that. So now it's case law. Right,
and folks, and we're going to take a little time here and take you through the whole scenario. But the city of Pensacola, the basis for this suit, the city of Pensacola set up the Maritime Park Board. It was through the auspices of the city of Pensacola. Of course, they wanted to claim that the Maritime Park Board was the CMPA was a private organization, but still it was set up by an elected governing board. They were having their meetings. The members of that meeting all pointed to the front of the room. The citizens had to sit in the back of the bus, and if anybody said anything, they'd have them removed from the meeting.
Yeah.
Deborah and I, along with Sharon Barnett, went to the city of Pensacola, and we made our arguments that, hey, elected officials don't always have the answer to something. B, a lot of times citizens have the expertise and the ability to bring forward fresh thoughts that should be considered. And C, it's just wrong when you're spending taxpayer dollars on a project not to allow citizens to speak. So we went before the Pensacola City Council. I think we made some good arguments. Apparently we made good enough arguments that they agreed. The city attorney sent a letter to the CMPA board and said you have to allow public input. Well, a certain federal judge that was the chairman of that board, he really took offense to that. And so their idea of public input was that 30 minutes before the actual meeting began, the public could go up there and say whatever they wanted to. Well, folks, that to me, and I want to stop right here, that is not public input.
Right.
Because here, they're sitting there with an agenda in front of them, and let's say, for example, I don't like item number 6. So I can't speak during the meeting. They go in a direction on item number 6 on the agenda that I disagree with, and I'm not allowed to stand up there.
Right, and then they end up voting on it.
And then they vote on it, and the citizens have had no input. But that's what they did, and it continued to be a problem. So as Deborah said, you had 2 citizens entered a suit.
Yeah, and now they sued for the period before they allowed any speaking at all. That's
Right.
what they were suing about.
Right. And I'm just going to tell you, folks, it's absolutely laughable that any judge, whether in the state of Florida or whether in Escambia County, Santa Rosa County, any place in the state of Florida, thinks that the citizens should not be allowed to participate and to speak at a meeting when it's their tax dollars that is at jeopardy by the votes of these committees.
Well, here's what happened: is they were arguing it's not in the Constitution and it's not in the Florida statute, and I wondered, well, maybe they have a case, and I went to the hearing where Sharon Barnett, who's a local attorney who does a lot of pro bono work for the public advocacy type work, presented the case, and she just had a list of case law a mile long where this has been the decision
over and over and over.
Over and over and over. This is what the case law has built up. That is the case, that it is allowed in public meetings. This has been decided before. And the hearing I went to here in Pensacola, what happened was the judge I felt was so hostile to her case
Yeah.
that towards the end of the meeting, he was actually arguing the other side's case for them.
Right.
And I mean, I thought it was grossly unbalanced the way that hearing went. And I understand it, similar situation all the way up the line.
Right.
And all the way up the line, they said, well, no, you don't have the right. Well, here's what case law says. Case law says we do, and they've ignored that.
Well, one of the interesting things that to me is now I will tell you that the Sunshine Law says that we as citizens have the right to participate.
Right. Exactly.
Now, any normal thinking person would I think would have to agree that participating, it wouldn't mean that I go forward and do jumping jacks.
Here's the thing: is that's in the Constitution.
Right.
Judges are supposed to interpret constitutional provisions as broadly as possible.
Right.
And from what I understand, they were interpreting this provision for this particular case as narrowly as possible.
Right. Folks, I'll tell you right now, you know, it says you have the right to participate. Well, I don't know how you can participate. You know, I guess if it was shovel ready,
Yeah.
they could hand you a shovel and you could
Right.
shovel. You know, can you do jumping jacks in front of them?
Right.
I mean, participation, you know, us dumb old common folks clearly understand that participating in the government that I pay for
Yeah.
means that periodically I need to go down there and pat them on the back for doing a good job or spank them for doing something that I don't want them to
Yeah.
do. And, you know, they narrowly define this thing. So,
Watching is not participating.
yes, absolutely. You know, look, sitting there watching government at work, if all you can do is sit there and watch them as they, for example, take a vote to spend $3.2 million on the Pullen property,
Right.
It didn't help that I went forward and spoke because they still voted for it.
Right.
But at least I had the opportunity to go up there and give my reasons not to make that expenditure. And folks, look, I'm telling you, I was talking with somebody today, and he asked me if I was a conspiracy theorist over some of this stuff, and he meant it in a good way. I said, no, I'm actually not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy realist. I'm sitting here watching these people
Right. Right.
in front of me because they don't want us to have any say. They have been slowly chipping away at our rights
Yeah.
for you, very subtly, a little bit with a frog in the water, raise the temperature. They slow. And folks, the reason I opened this show up by reading you the First Amendment to the Constitution, they're now saying you can't participate. You can only participate. You can't speak at a public meeting in the state of Florida. All right. We have emboldened these judges to make stupid, idiotic decisions like this because we don't ever kick them out of office. They're coming after your First Amendment next, folks. Trust me on this.
Well, look what they've done to the Second Amendment.
The Second Amendment, they're already trying to get that from you. But the next thing you're going to find out is that, for example, when you don't like how something's going and you decide to make a placard with a stick and go downtown, whatever your town is, and say, I'm against the landfill, they're going to come arrest you because you don't have First Amendment rights to redress your grievances. This is where this is heading at, folks. It is. Little by little. And I'll tell you right now, the Supreme Court of the state of Florida, they ought to boot send them to Alabama as far as I'm concerned.
And they refused to. What it was, they refused to hear it.
They wouldn't even look at it.